US approach runway 26 left. Now vector to the paddock button and use landing runways runway 26 left for large aircraft and runway 26 right for light aircraft.
Welcome back to another episode of the Bryan podcast with myself, Bryan Rosevier, and as always, here in the studio with Ryan Perrock. How's it, guys?
Hey, what?
Have a good week?
Yeah, it's been great, man. Geez, I can't believe how quick the weeks roll over now that we're back to podcasting. You know, Thursday, these shows just roll over so quickly.
That show in the middle of the week, the live, it rolls a bit into the studio show, which is cool, I think, because it actually gives us a bit of content to talk about.
Yeah, it was a great one this week with John, and
it was a great one with John. Yeah, it was awesome. If you haven't seen that, it is on the YouTube channel, and it's released as a podcast as well, so check that out. But otherwise, let's get into our usual news. We managed to speak to Jordan Butler from the Mango Pilots Association. So we got that little interview, and we'll put that on a little bit later. But before we get there, around the world, from what I'm seeing, there's a few more travel restrictions popping up. And mainly, in fact, there's a bit of news out of China. There's a lot going on there. They were up, about 8-9% on 2019 levels 2 weeks ago. They're now 10% behind what they were 2019 levels. That's because of the variant doing its business up in that part of the world. So not good to see out of China. More Chinese news is, of course, the 737 MAX that was flown there the other day to start its certification. And an interesting story to watch. Yeah. It's heavily political. And word on the street there is that this is not going to be approved before the COMAC is approved, I should say. So a lot to watch there. And I never realized, actually, out of China there, the authority in terms of certifying aircraft, it's a major thing. ATR had an issue there a few years back, and there's a lot of stories and reports, and how true they are, don't know, but almost that it was kept longer than needed for certification so that the Chinese could reverse engineer that ATR.
Yeah, because they had their own version of that, which was a bit of I can't remember what it was called now, but Zimbabwe had one at one stage, or two. But it was like a bit of a mix between an ATR and the Russian, Antonov 12 or something like that. Yeah, it resembled one of those things.
I'm not the sharpest on the Russian Aries, I won't lie to you. But yeah, so an interesting story to watch, and a developing one nonetheless. A lot to be done. It's a full certification that happens. It's test flights. It's a whole lot of things. Boeing also been put under a bit of pressure by the FAA to provide the pilots, so looking at FCOMs and stuff like that, provide pilots with more information during training. They say the information that the pilots are getting during the training stage, or even that the pilots have access to in the operational stage, is not enough. It's not in detail. In particular, the non-normal stuff, the emergencies in that. They want it more elaborated, so that the pilots have access to more information. So, yeah, okay. And that's from FAA, American FAA, and of course that information will filter through to the Chinese. So a decently long process awaits the 737 MAX approval. I managed to get hold of a nice document the other day, which was this recertification of the MAX in America, and man, it's a thorough document.
Serious?
Yeah, interesting one. I'm about a quarter of the way through it, but an interesting one, and it certainly highlights what needs to be done to get an aircraft certified in the first place. And this is, of course,
is that MAX specific, or is it just a general?
No, it's MAX specific.
Oh, okay.
So it came out of America, and a really detailed document. So, yeah. I'll report on that a bit more once I've got the gen on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Other than that, from a travel tourism side, some not so nice news for South Africans that need to quarantine in the UK. Quarantine costs, if they weren't enough already, because South Africa's on the red list. If you are entering England from a red list country, obviously you've got your 10 days that you need to do. The current rate's £1,750. It's about 36,000 rand for 10 days and 11 nights. And there's a rate there for a child as well. But from Thursday, which is today when we're recording this, that's now increased to £2,285. That's 47,000 rand and £1,430 for each additional child.
It's ludicrous, man.
That is redonkulous.
No, it's crazy. I mean, yeah, there's no hope of a travel recovery as long as this quarantine nonsense carries on.
Talking of quarantining, a special word of mention to the Springboks, not the flying ones, the rugby ones, the successful ones, on beating the British and Irish Lions. What a game.
That was incredible. Yeah, the guys did well. It
was tight.
Yeah.
But it was a great game, and congratulations to them. Isn't it amazing? I don't know. I actually wanted to make this my story, but I couldn't get it to a point where I can articulate this the way I want. The Springboks we're obviously really proud of them because on the world stage, they compete at the highest level consistently. There was a couple of years where we were a little bit dodgy, but for the most part, I mean, we, arguably the most successful rugby team in the world. I suppose the Kiwis won't agree on that, but we tend to win the bigger games, and we've beaten the British and Irish Lions. The last 2 times we've won a few World Cups, and ultimately the government owned, aren't they?
Yeah.
So how does it work in sport? Is it because there's something to measure it against? You got South African Airways, which hasn't competed on a world stage for a really, really long time. Is that because you can't measure it? A politician can stand up and say, no, it's a great airline. It's the best airline in the world. I mean, how often did they win the best airline in the world award?
Yeah, never. They were always the best airline in Africa.
Oh, in Africa.
Yeah, but not on against the world. There
well,
are far better
okay,
airlines
but let's
out
just take Africa. I mean, measured for what? Sitting in business class, or sitting in a old Spoories plane, it was never a problem. It was a nice experience. Cabin crew were good, pilots well trained, nice smooth flight. Often in newish aircraft was never an issue. But I suppose behind the scenes is where the rubbish was happening. But nevertheless, the Springboks are one of the government owned properties, I suppose, that really does compete, and proud of them.
Yeah,
but it started off this conversation on quarantining.
Yeah.
So the English players, they've got to fly through. I'm going to get this wrong now. It'll come to me later on. But they're not flying. They were going to Ireland. The Irish guys can go straight back. The English guys have to go via somewhere else. I forget, Guernsey or somewhere. I'll remember it shortly. But what a crazy, crazy setup. I mean, it's just ludicrous.
Yeah.
The even sportsmen being messed around. But yeah, as you said, Ryan, as long as these quarantines are the way they are, tourism's in deep trouble worldwide.
Yeah, look, it's so unfortunate. We had hoped that by now, with all the vaccinations being rolled out and all that sort of stuff, that things would start getting better. But yeah, every couple of weeks there's a new variant that pops up somewhere around the world, which sends the numbers spiking, and that's why we're seeing these sort of roller coaster numbers what they are now.
At least it's cool they named the variant after an airline for a change.
Yeah, they're not too impressed about that. Did you see that joke going around where there's Delta and Corona, and Delta are moaning about the variant, and Corona like, seriously?
Yeah, come on.
It's funny.
Vaccines. United Airlines are going to make vaccines mandatory for all the employees. Frontier joins United in requiring all employees be vaccinated as well.
So if you're an anti-vaxxer, do you get faxed?
Yeah, you do. Joe Rogan's been vocal about this because saying you just cannot force people to get this vaccine. It's just that was the difference between America and all other countries. Was America's been successful because not a dictatorship, and now you're kind of being told what you have to do and what you will do. But I don't know what side of the fence you sit on. I don't really care, and I don't really care what side of the fence anyone sits on. I just want to be able to travel again and for things to go back to some sort of normality. And for the most part, it appears that the travel and tourism industry is encouraging people to get vaxxed. So listen, I've had my first one. Yeah,
I haven't yet. I'll get it soon. It's not because I'm opposed to it. I just actually don't really care either way. But if it's going to stop me from traveling, definitely. But I mean, what I've noticed is there's a lot of valid concerns around why you should have it and why you shouldn't.
Oh yeah.
And everybody's got in their own right a correct point of view, and you respect that. I just find it's concerning that the FDA hasn't approved it, yet big corporate American organizations are forcing you to get it. Otherwise, you don't have a job. I don't know.
I don't think our numbers on the show is going to be really good because it's going to get...
we're talking a lot of
it's going to get pulled down. They don't like you talking about this stuff because it's only for experts.
Let's leave it to the experts then, and let's get back to what we're doing best. All right. We said we're going to keep it light-hearted and punchy, so...
Let's do it. What else? Richard Branson is going to take Virgin Atlantic... he's going to make that an IPO. We're going to make a public offering for that. So he's using his foray into space tourism and the publicity he's got of late to try and use that to get a bit of equity into Virgin. So
cool.
It's a good idea, I suppose. Not doing it at the best time, but they were heavily affected. The Atlantic crossing was the most. It's still up in the air, I was going to say, but even today there's talks of stopping that the Atlantic flying again, and it's a whole long palaver. But it affected Virgin badly, and so if you want shares in Virgin, now's the time to get them. Yeah,
we were having this conversation the other day when we were speaking about it just after old Richard took his ride into space, or was it Jeff Bezos? Isn't it funny, the billionaires of the world, while everybody else is scrambling to hold on to jobs and survive, all the billionaires are riding their rockets into space.
Yeah. Listen, I'd do the same.
So would I.
If I had the ammo. Cool. You weren't flying a Gulfstream 4 the other day on the northeast coast of Brazil, were you?
Me?
Yeah.
No, unfortunately not.
Did you see that aircraft packed full of
cocaine
powder?
Those guys, they were obviously well on their way to a pretty good weekend.
Looked like it.
Got spoiled.
Yeah. And that aircraft was it was owned by the Turkish government.
Yeah. A couple of Harley Davidsons worth of powder in the back there.
Yeah, there was there was a lot. But let's get to the South African story, and certainly our main story of the week, Ryan. It's been a difficult time for a lot of Mango pilots and Mango employees in general. Watching this thing unfold, and it kind of brought certainly myself back into that frame of mind that we were in right at the beginning, and when we never, when Saks folded. And it's such an awful feeling, and it's something that I never ever want to go through again for the rest of my life. And thoughts and that really do go out to a lot of the Mango employees. So, yeah, we spoke to Jordan Butler. What a nice guy, actually.
Yeah.
He has been superb in the media. I really think he's been superb. He's been direct. He hasn't picked unnecessary fights or anything. He's just called it the way it was. This is the story. This is what we believe was going to happen. And Ryan, he called it, or they called it. They were going to wind Mango down the same as they did with Saks. And I think it's great. These guys managed to cause a few waves before it got to that point. And now at least there's a sliver of hope. Look, they're not out the woods by any stretch of the imagination. But at least it's in business rescue, not a joint business rescue, but it is in. But let's listen to what Jordan had to say. So joining us on the show now, Jordan Butler, the Mango Pilots Association, representing, I should say, the Mango Pilots Association. Jordan, it's fantastic to chat to you tonight. I watched you on Carte Blanche on Sunday, and that's what actually gave me the confidence to say, hey, let me give you a call and reach out, because I was heavily impressed with the way you spoke. And I was heavily impressed with what you guys and girls at Mango are busy doing. Ryan and I are obviously ex-Saks employees, and we got a bit blindsided by this whole thing. And when I look at how you guys are handling the situation, you are handling it 100% better than what we did. I think your foray into the media, what you've spoken about and everything has really hit home. And I'd like to think, maybe you guys learned a bit from how poorly we handled things, but well done on that. And I'll jump right to it. Jordan, just give us a summary now. Where do things stand right now? What is the position of the Mango Pilots Association?
Thanks, Bryan. Thanks, Ryan, for having me on the show. And definitely we've learned from not just you guys, but also from the Sapa debacle and how they had to deal with everything going on there. So there's been, fortunately, a couple of you guys that have gone before us, and this is not the first rodeo that has been ridden. So where we stand at the moment, further to the Carte Blanche story, which, as you said, was quite revealing, we got our judgment back yesterday afternoon from the Gauteng High Court. Unfortunately, the judge has ruled in Mango's favor, surprisingly. However, he hasn't given reasons as to why yet. So we're pretty much in the dark as to what he was thinking with his reasoning and what validations he has behind his judgment. So at the moment, Mango is in business rescue. Today, this afternoon, the CIPC updated, as per the judgment, Mango's status to in business rescue, effective from the 28th of July. But I'm pretty sure we would have ended up like another Saks, or possibly, well, pretty much like another Saks, I would say, if we hadn't pushed so hard for the business rescue route. Court documents that we got from their affidavit, it was fairly clear, in our opinion, that they were favoring a winding down of Mango, the same scenario as Saks. So if we hadn't filed our court application, I don't think they would have actually jumped at the business rescue option, even though they had passed the resolution back in the day. So at least we've got Mango into business rescue, and at least we've protected some jobs, and we should get some form of payout with this 819 million that's sitting with Treasury. So hopefully now that they're in control of the process, that money will flow a lot quicker than if we had actually won. So it would have still been an uphill battle with whether we won or not. So we're watching very closely, and we're waiting to see what the judge's final verdict on everything is, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, it's interesting times, a lot happening. Okay, so that's the step that the change since Sunday. Just a question I want to throw at you, and maybe a slight different angle, and something that has really bitten me watching what's been happening to you guys. I just find it somewhat strange that in this time in history, when mental health and things like bullying are front and center in the media, and they're absolute no-nos in our society. I mean, there's been headline news over the past few years about youngsters at school being expelled for bullying and things like this. But from what I've been seeing, and certainly what happened to us, but particularly now looking at you guys, there's been some bullying going on by the shareholder and, possibly even SAA to some extent. And I just want to ask, how are you coping? How are you and your colleagues coping in this time? Take away the business side of it, the union side of it, just from a personal level. How are you guys handling everything?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's quite intense, Brian. Just on the union side, they basically try to strong arm us into withdrawing our application and dangling the carrot of salaries. They would not put anything on writing, obviously, but 1 month salaries. I mean, when you haven't been paid for 2 months and all the 6 months that's gone on that we still owed from last year, 1 month salary would have put out quite a few fires for a lot of people. So to say it's bullying, it's definitely bullying. Luckily, we managed to stay strong and very united, actually, as a company for our common cause. Even people that aren't in the Pilots Association have been giving us words of thanks and encouragement as we go along. So guys and girls are under an immense amount of pressure. Totally. I mean, there's people that have lost their cars, other people that are being evicted. Some have moved back in with their parents. You get daily phone calls. Any idea when we're going to be getting money, of which you've got no answer to. So people's grandmothers, people's mothers that are in care facilities that depend on them. It's a very stressful time for everyone. So any reserves that anyone has had in their bank accounts or backup that they have has been pretty much used up in last year's pandemic when everything was shut down. So it's very stressful for everyone. And to then be bullied and pushed in the direction is not great.
So, yeah, Jordan, from our side, I think it really is heartbreaking to see what you guys are going through and to basically relive this nightmare. Bryan and I were chatting about it earlier. I mean, I think, like he said, we were blindsided, and to a large degree, our union at the time was being strung along by a lot of false hopes, and I think a large portion of it was the sheer disbelief that our government would let an airline or an SOE down so badly, particularly because I think us at SA Express were deemed as the transformation engine, particularly bringing crew into the flight deck, etc. So for a large part of our time at SAX, when the writing was on the wall, we were strung along by false hopes. And when this all happened, it was a very, very difficult and bitter pill to swallow. So I think, just from the Bryan podcast side, I think I want to just send a message out to you and all your crew that we are thinking of you guys, and we would like to play as much of a supportive role as we possibly can. If guys want to reach out and chat and just sort of vent it out, because we totally understand the circumstances and the time that you guys are going through. So just a message from our side to stay strong and keep up the good fight, because it's awesome to see that you guys aren't taking this lying down.
Yeah, for us it's been a bit surreal, but I can imagine how they string you along. They are spin doctors of note, and they can talk to you for an hour and a half without actually saying anything, but promise you the world. And fortunately, I think for us, there's three of us unions together, us, SACA, and NUMSA, and they've had a lot to deal with the DPE, with the whole SAA business rescue debacle. So they've seen their tricks already before and heard their promises already before. So whilst it was all new to us, they were at least keeping it real, so to speak, and saying, guys, this is a bullshit tactic. I hope I can say that. Going on. So these are tactics that they flat out lying to us, and like you say, they just string you along. Oh, we need more time. We need more time. Give us till then. Give us till then. And every time you get to that deadline, it's more time again. So yeah, I understand exactly what you mean when you say they just string you guys along. And yeah, the support is a lot. This is not my first business rescue radio. I was at one time, once upon a time. So
you've seen this movie before.
seen this one before as well.
Yeah.
But at least the crew generally sticks together. I mean, a lot of the cockpit crew in Joburg have been getting together and at least having a bra just to give each other a bit of moral support and keep going. So I know a lot of guys just check in on each other and chat to each other just to provide some sort of support network, so to speak.
That goes a long way. I mean, we spoke about it the other day as well. When SACS went into this whole mess, it was right at the beginning of the national lockdown. And, we weren't afforded the freedom of being able to get together and, have a bra and just back each other up and support each other in person.
And commiserate,
we were still trying to figure out how Zoom works. So it's good to see that you guys are sticking together and it goes a long way. I mean, in fact, we've got a lot of friends at Mango, a lot of ex-SACS colleagues that are there. So, that's why this is so close to home for us as well.
Yeah, no, the guys that are from SACS that are at Mango, they're in total disbelief. They said we thought we had escaped all the drama, but here we are back into the fire. So, yeah.
Jordan, what's with the latest developments now? What's your view of best case scenario from now going forward? Obviously, the business rescue is never an easy process. It's uncertain. There's a lot of uncertainty. I'm sure a lot of the guys are looking elsewhere at the moment, and it's just a difficult time for everyone. But for you personally, what's best case scenario going forward?
So our previous best case scenario was a joint business rescue. So at least we had an eye on the ball that they were playing. So at the moment, we really need to regroup and see what this judgment is about. There's a lot of people watching this judgment. It has the potential to really upend the whole business rescue process, according to our lawyers, and upend the whole Companies Act and how business rescue is conducted, because they've really challenged the whole business rescue concept. So from our side, we need to see where that goes. We're keeping a very close eye on the proceedings, and we've got really good support from our lawyers and our proposed business rescue practitioner, old Rolf Lichman there from Concord Administrators. Seriously, it would not be possible if it wasn't for him, and I don't take that lightly. He's very much been helping us fund this whole show, and our attorneys, Steinscop attorneys, have been doing it on risk. So there's a lot of goodwill, and they believed that we had a solid case. So, which I don't think they would have committed so much time and effort if they didn't believe it was a solid case, especially on risk. So we need to see where it goes, and if anything does happen, we certainly will interdict it, and possibly may appeal the judgment. But like I say, we can't appeal until we know the reasons.
Yeah.
The one thing is that post commencement finance is available in theory, that 819 million. So we don't need to go and find the money. And if you look at the SAA business rescue, they had 38 billion rand worth of debt, and they business rescued with about 2 billion. So
yeah,
we've got a lot more money as the ratio goes than they had. So it's a very doable process. Hopefully the restructuring doesn't come at the cost of jobs. It should come at the cost of a lot of streamlining and betterment of contracts, etc. Mango is generally a very, very streamlined airline and a very lean airline as it is. It wasn't overinflated and bloated like the SAA model. So it remains to be seen which route they take, but we're watching closely.
Yeah, it's been such a strong brand for a long time, and it's only in the very recent times where it really got pulled through the gutter. So it's difficult to see. Like you said, the guys going across from SACS were going to the safe haven in Mango, because it was well run, nice aircraft, and a very, very strong brand. by far the strongest brand within the SOE makeup. There's no question about that. A very, very strong brand. And difficult to see you guys going through this at the moment. Obviously, on social media, you see a lot of things, aircraft, being sent overseas. I don't know if they're going there for C checks or stuff like that, or what the story is. But aircraft, is that going to be an issue, Jordan? A lack of aircraft to make a proper business model, a viable business model for the business rescue, or is that a fixable solution?
It should be a fixable solution. 3 aircraft have gone back to one of the leases, Macquarie. I flew one of them myself back to Budapest. So they need D checks. So they have to go, and the leaseor didn't want them to be done at SAA Technical for many reasons. I think one, they wanted the aircraft out the country. 2, I don't think SAA Technical have the capabilities really these days to get it done and sorted quickly. So whether they come back or not is another story. One left last week as well. The theory is that they can come back. Just before the whole pandemic hit, 2 aircraft were being returned to the leaseor, SAFE. So they went back. I think it's Sir Juliet Golf, Sir Juliet Hotel. And so we were down to 12. There's still quite a few aircraft sitting at SAA Technical from GCAS, which are fairly easy to get up and going again. They just need some cash injected into the leaseor's bank account, I think, more than anything. So the business rescue plan that we proposed, which is pretty much a copy-paste of the Mango one, is based on 8 to 9 aircraft to get going. So we're pretty sure we can get quite comfortably 8 to 9 aircraft up and going, and at least 5 in the meantime, which would service the domestic market and hopefully get back onto the Zanzibar market, which has been historically a really profitable route for us.
Yeah, well, it's good to hear, Jordan. It's been nice chatting to you tonight. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know you've been hell of a busy.
No, all good.
And but we'd like to make the offer open to yourself and any of the Mango crew. If they want a platform to have something to say, then we're your guys. Just give us a shout. And you in particular, Jordan, if there's some news you want to get out and about quickly, give us a shout anytime. We're certainly supporting you and your colleagues, and we hope you guys get through this. The last thing we need is a whole whack of fellow aviators unemployed. It really can't do with that in South Africa right now. So all the best and stay strong. And most importantly, just stay mentally strong and as tough as you can. I think I gave Sean Purvis some advice, one of your pilots. I just said, the one thing you can do is just be the toughest guy in the room. Try and support the guys by being strong, because I think people probably need it more than certainly what I gave it credit for. Not everyone is as mentally strong, and kudos again to how you've handled things. I think it's really been fantastic, and certainly a lesson for any other union head in the future as to how to handle a difficult situation with government. So well done.
Thanks very much, gentlemen. Thanks very much for having me. Like I said, don't underestimate the mental capability, and it's great to have a fantastic support system at home. So that it really does make a big difference. Sure. But like you said, the last thing we want is more aviators sitting at home. So hopefully things start to head in the right direction now for aviation in the country, and we can get back on our feet a little bit at least.
For sure.
Yeah, Jordan, thanks very much from my side. I'll just reiterate what Bryan said, stay strong, and we'd love to see you guys come through this. And it'd be nice to see Mango back in the sky, and old Sean Purvis putting up more of his pictures.
Definitely.
We miss those.
Well, it's thanks to Purvis if you ever look at all my TV interviews. Those are all his backgrounds as well. Thanks very much, gentlemen.
Thanks, Jordan. Really appreciate it.
Cool, guys. Catch you later. Cheers.
Bye. Thoughts, Ryan?
Man, I thoroughly enjoyed that conversation with Jordan. It was obviously the first time I've ever spoken to him, and
same.
I share your thoughts. the guys are really are handling it very well. What impresses me the most is, in general, there seems to be a very good morale amongst the crew, which, from when I remember what we were going through at SACS in the similar sort of time frame when the airline was busy, on its last legs,
plundering in on itself.
There was such a low morale amongst the crew and the employees. It actually just became terrible to go to work. And these guys, although they in the thick of it now, they're still supporting each other, getting together, having bras, seeing to it that they stand strong. So yeah, I'm chuffed for them, and I really do hope that they get this right and see things through, and that there's something more positive that comes out of this, because it would be a crying shame to see another SOE just go down the drain, man.
Yeah, it wouldn't be good. We can't afford it right now. It's just not on.
No, and I mean, the industry as a whole doesn't need another. How many pilots they got? 200 odd.
Oh, there's 700 or so employees there.
Yeah, not only the pilots, but all the employees, the families that are affected. I mean, Pravin, I don't know how he sleeps at night, but anyway.
He's probably got a machine that simulates the sound of the ocean. Puts him to bed nicely.
Yeah.
After some Johnny Blue. And oysters and caviar.
Yeah, shame, man. What you got there?
Airspace Africa is a cool place to find information. Actually, it's Derek and Seko's website. I found this quite interesting. World's top 10 airports, 221. Hamad International Airport, Tokyo, Singapore, Incheon, Narita, Munich, Zurich, London Heathrow, Kansai, and then Hong Kong. So a bit of a spread there, world's top 10 airports in 221. Apparently, a lot of these airports, they've started to kick into gear again now. Someone said to me the other day, why aren't the restaurants in Johannesburg airport, why haven't they opened up again? And I mean, can you imagine these companies that have to keep? Let's take a normal restaurant or lounge. They've got to have the kitchen must be staffed. They can't reduce the staff to the point where it's not a viable business anymore.
Yeah,
and there's just not enough people going through the airport. So tourism and travel. Renelle Stander was interviewed the other day, and she spoke about how many people the aviation industry employs. It's a hell of a lot of people, but it only works when there are people flowing through these airports. You can talk about cargo and that all day long, but that tourism, the travel through the airport, the vibe through the airport, that vibe makes you want to go and sit down and have a beer. If you're walking through an empty airport and you're wearing 30 masks on your head and carrying health passports and God knows what else, doesn't exactly bode well for saying, hey, let me go and buy my wife something at the duty free and go and have a beer. The point I'm trying to make, it's just not viable right now.
Exactly. That was the coolest thing about traveling. I mean, thinking about the other day when we were saying, well, what do we miss the most about SA Express was the times that we used to travel to Sim in France. And yeah, man, it's really just such a nice experience. And you've got 3 or 4 hours to kill to walk around that terminal, look at what's on special. I mean, a lot of my electronics come from Paris.
Oh, yeah.
And then, find a decent place to sit down, have something good to eat, and a couple of beers before you board the airplane. Yeah, man.
Nothing better.
I really do miss that.
Yeah. Good times, that. Ryan, you wanted to chat about a video that was circling around social media the other day.
Yeah, while we're on the topic of airports, you saw this video doing the rounds last week of this 737, I think it was a 300, that was allegedly doing a heavily unstable approach.
Saw that, yeah.
It's like a 30-second clip where you just see like a really bad approach being flown. And a couple of days later, I don't know if you've seen this guy on YouTube, he calls himself the Mentor Pilot.
Yeah.
He's been going for a long time, and I've been following his channel for many years. I really enjoy his content, And he took the time to take that video clip and go and break it down and analyze what really happened there, and gave the behind the scenes story. And I really enjoyed it because basically what happened was it wasn't a deliberately badly flown unstable approach. There's this airport called Paro in Bhutan, which is I think it's one of the highest airports and the most dangerous airfields in the world to fly into. And these guys were a charter operation or something like that, flying vaccines or whatever in. But this particular airport, because of the terrain that surrounds the airfield, you have to have like a special sort of endorsement to be able to operate into this place. So how the guys get that, obviously special training, or they take like an expert on the jump seat. And that's what happened in this case. This guy was talking these guys through this approach. But yeah, I would encourage the guys to go and watch the Mentor Pilot's YouTube video because he's done a good job of explaining it. He's got the diagrams, and it makes you appreciate what these guys are actually going through and why that approach and landing looked like it did. But it also quickly really made me realize how social media can misconstrue things, because there was this whole song and dance about, check it how these guys are flying, this is it shouldn't be allowed, and what went on here, and it was 30 seconds taken at the wrong time and completely blown out of proportion. So just I suppose a bit of a caution on
well, even take our conversation today. Someone can cut whatever they want, piece certain things together, and it becomes a very non-aviation show.
So just caution. But anyway, there was that, and go and watch the video of his on YouTube. Check it out and get the full story behind it. Quite informative.
There's a bit of talk going on about global standards of training and global standards of operating right now. David Leahy, he's one of the big shots there at the Royal Aeronautical Society. And there's a bit of a call to action here to the big operators around the world to take the lead in raising the standards of training and operating. And basically what's happened is everyone is, because of the pandemic, and in particular in certain parts of the world, this training to the minimum standard is creeping up a little bit more. And it's quite a deep article, and there's a story there about Korean Airlines. Like Korean had a code share with one of the big American operators, and the American operator wanted to keep that code share, but Korean had an appalling safety record, and until the American operator actually took over a lot of their training, and since then they haven't had a major incident. It's an interesting thing to watch, and it's obviously a little bit in general, but training standards with us here in the training industry at Samero, training to the minimum standard I think is dangerous, and should certainly not be encouraged. But you do see videos like that, and there's still a lot of general aviation pranks that are happening. Is that gap, do you think the gap between the professional side, the 135 121 operators, is getting bigger to the GA guys? I'm not trying to stab them in the back, but there does seem to have been a lot of accidents. The counter argument could be that some of those accidents were flown by Part 121 pilots themselves. So I don't know, something to watch, I suppose.
I think there's so many contributing factors. The lockdowns that have been in place. People are cutting corners, trying to operate leaner and cheaper and this sort of thing. So they'll cut back on training and going the extra distance on certain things. And not to mention, I think the CAAs to a large degree have played a factor in this as well, because it's taken so much longer for guys to get their NTCAs and approvals and licenses, etc.
Oh, that's true. So
so many factors, and I don't know, just general mental mindset. Guys probably, with all the stuff that's going on around the world,
everyone's mind is somewhere else.
Is not necessarily there. But that's a bit of a controversial topic to dive into. Maybe something that one of our experts could touch in on.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Are you ready for my Bryan advisory for this week?
Shoot.
I've come across a guy. I've heard him on a podcast a few times, actually. His name is Steve Gordano. For the last 20 years, Steve and his team, highly experienced former airline and military pilots, they've been flying to hundreds of exotic destinations around the world and delivering empty aircraft for different leasing companies, cargo operators, you name it. Any aircraft, they operate on a Part 91, and these guys are cool, man. They it is such a nice looking job. They pick up aircraft, and this guy, I've seen him fly 340s, 330s, 73s, MDs.
No ways.
You name it, he flies. Now what he's done, he's started a YouTube channel. The channel itself is called Speed Tape Films, so I'll put the link in the show notes. Definitely worth checking it out. But the series that he's done is called Cockpit Casual. Yeah. So these guys jump in the aircraft, he's got his cap on backwards, and they fire this thing up and they go. And he's been doing this for 20 years. He's an ex commercial pilot, and it just looks like such a cool job. They were in Iceland the other day, and he takes his golf clubs with him wherever he goes, and him and his best mate, who he flies most of the flights with, they go and play golf and have a big jaw on these trips. So I really got jealous watching the one video last night. He's only released, I think there's 2 episodes on the channel right now, but there's a lot more to come. And he does actually say at the beginning that he's got a hell of a lot better at doing the editing and even the filming. At the beginning, it was just him and his GoPro. Now he's got a few more cameras by the looks of it, and the sound's better. And he's got his own music going on in the background. So he's quite a guy. And he reminds me of a few of the guys that we've flown with over the years. But it's a really nice thing to watch. It's sort of lighthearted, but it's still got that aviation angle to it. So a real aviation Bryan advisory today, but that's my tech tip. Have a productivity tip. Go and watch that. It'll already bring your love back into aviation. And you said when I was telling you about it earlier, I wonder how we can apply because they've got a massive team. They've got you see him there with his satellite phone, and they're organizing stuff from the other end of the world, and really, really cool. They've got pilots with EASA licenses, Chilean licenses, you name it, because they got a wide range of people. And you can imagine now, during the pandemic, how many aircraft have been moved from one place to the other. The other day, he was bringing back a brand new airplane. I mean, it still had, the seats in the back were, they'd looked like they'd hardly been sat on. That was being flown off to go be turned into a cargo aircraft. They're cutting a cargo door in the back of this thing. Crazy. But very cool. Go check that out. As I said, link in the show notes. It's worth it. You'll enjoy it.
Man, that's exciting kind of flying. I've done 1 or 2 ferry flights in my career, and there's just a different element. I remember the one trip we took a CRJ7 up to Slovenia in 2019, and it was for the first time in a long time that I actually felt like I was doing pilot stuff again. You had to go and really look at the charts and study your way through it, and not just flying a route.
Well, I mean, we flew to
that you used to
Bloemen back so many times. You could have done it with your eyes closed.
Exactly.
So to go somewhere different, like these guys are doing all the time. I mean, destinations like you can't believe. I think the last episode was, and they were in Zagreb in Croatia. And of course, when they land there, they go and smash a few beers like every good pilot does.
So it's done.
Yeah. Man.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. So the main story for the week, Ryan, of course, the Mango side. Bryan Air podcast is behind the Mango employees. And there's differing opinions on whether Mango should be around or not. That's not really our agenda at all. Our sort of aim here is to try and highlight what's happening to the aviators. And there's a lot of aviators, cabin crew as well, that are their minds are in turmoil there, and they need support. So whether you support the airline as an airline itself or not, you can't help but want to get behind the pilots and the cabin crew, because they need the support.
Yeah, they need it. I mean, especially at a time like this now where I think for us at SACS, if it wasn't for the pandemic and the damage done to aviation, although we would have been brought to our knees, we may have found work in other companies in the country or even elsewhere in the world.
Yeah.
But, I think that's the reason why they're fighting so hard, is because they realize that there's nowhere else to go. You got to really, really fight hard for your job. So, we're right there behind them and wishing them all the support.
Yep. And anyone else that needs a bit of support, don't hesitate to give us a shout. We want to hear from you. Join us on Tuesday night, 7 o'clock for our Bryan Air live show. Live show is fun. It's a bit more light-hearted. Join us. Bring a whiskey along. Or your drink of choice. Bryan, you bring strawberry daiquiris across, don't you?
Yep. Pink drinks.
Real men drink pink drinks. I enjoyed it today. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, man. That was great fun. And, see you
Calls
Tuesday.
to action. Go Aviate. Check out Aviation 4SA. Always download that app if you need it. All pilots in South Africa need that app for sure. Go Aviate, of course. Check it out. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Please, on Apple Podcasts, if you can shoot us a review as well. Spotify and YouTube. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Click where will the subscribe button be? Down there somewhere. Until next week, everyone, have a lovely weekend ahead. Keep the blue side up. Until then, goodbye for now.
Ciao.